Okay, good evening and welcome. And my name is Marcus Breen, and I'm going to be talking to the candidate for Ward 1. Allan has lived in Newton all his life. He's a retired Newton police officer, a Vietnam veteran, a father, a grandfather and a great-grandfather, and has previously served on the Board of Aldermen, which is now the City Council, and he served from 1991 to 2003. So I want to ask you about what you think should be the number one legislative priority for the City of Newton that you would bring to the Council.
My first week on the board, I will file a docket item to reduce the Board of Aldermen to 16, 8 at large and 8 ward aldermen. We had an election over this, and all the campaigning that went on, nobody campaigned to save the large spot. The heavy campaign was save our ward alderman, and I got it from all wards, literature, and I feel that way. So if the item is docketed, it will create a public hearing and let the aldermen or council stand up and be accountable. I know they don't want to do it because they don't want to fight each other. I felt that way when I was on the board, and they said, why don't you do it? Well, I don't want to fight him. You know, and basically, that's what it is, I'm sure. Plus the fact they just gave themselves a 59% raise. And that will entice people, I think, to run that need health insurance. Because now they're going to be getting $11,000 or $12,000 a year with health insurance. And that's a big plus. Well, they make 95. No, they gave themselves a $5,000 raise. So they get 59% raise.
It's not a massive amount of income, though, is it?
No, it's they all get that. They all get that. So it's a part-time job. It's supposed to be a part-time job. Some people do it full-time, but years ago, we had crossing guards, and the women were out there because their husband had jobs that didn't have health insurance, and they were doing it for the health insurance because the pay was peanuts, and then the city cut them off. So they had nothing. That's why we have a problem getting crossing guards. And I think there might be a lot of women out there now that's just saying, wow, why didn't they vote for that sooner? So I could have thrown my hat in the ring. And I think there would be a lot more contestants in this race if they had voted that pay raise earlier. And in 2 years, I think you're going to see a lot of people running for these spots.
Well, that is a fascinating perspective. We'll come back to you in 2 years and see what happens. See how many people we've got on the table.
I'll be 82. I don't know if I want to keep on going.
How much population growth do you think Newton can accommodate before the quality of our life suffers?
I think we're doing great right now.
The number is 90,000. We're about
Yeah.
90,000. We could go beyond that or should stay at that.
90,000, I think, is pretty good. If we go above it, fine. But what I look at now is we have 600 units of housing either proposed or under construction. And the infrastructure, the school CIP, are they ready for this onslaught of students? Because that's what's going to come out of all these projects. And are we going to have to build a new school? Well, if we do, let's ask that builder that's buying up Washington Street to build a new Hamilton school for us. We'll staff it.
How would we staff it? Obviously with teachers, but how would we...
Teachers.
Yes. Okay. But how would we staff it in terms of funding that large challenge?
If we had to do an override for that, to fund it, to educate our children, I would vote for it and I would support it. But voting for these overrides, not on an off year. Let's vote for the overrides in an election year and get a true counting from the citizens. Because not everybody can vote off year, but they all seem to vote when it's election time. And that's when the override question should be put on the ballot, because the city knows well in advance that they need it.
I gather that's drawing on some experience you've seen
Yes.
and had in the past. Let's go to this question about what the full administration is proposing, which is a total rewrite of Newton's zoning code, and it would radically expand by right development throughout the city, including allowing multi-family homes or properties currently zoned single family and allowing apartment buildings by right in village centres. So do you support the administration's zoning proposals, and why or why not?
Absolutely not.
Would you like to elaborate?
What we're doing right now is fine. People coming before the Board of Aldermen, we have strict rules, or the council has strict rules and guidelines. And I don't think the mayor should be pulling the rug out from the citizens. I think they should come in, present their case, and case by case let it go.
Okay, so each project should be assessed.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what about the concern that Newton residents have about dense development in a few wealthy neighbourhoods of Newton? Is this wealthier? Wealthier areas are left untouched by development, and then maybe the less wealthy neighbourhoods are getting all the development, are seeing all the development. So for you in Ward 1, how would this work?
Yes. I'm in the lower class. But Newton is what it is. I mean, south side, north side, there's no place to build over in the south side of the city. I mean, people have their homes in a good-sized lot. What I am totally against is these homes being sold and monster houses being built right up to what they can do by right. And I thought we had taken care of that when I was on the board before, but we didn't. But I believe that's in the zoning, with the zoning they're working on now to change that, so that can't be done.
It seems like there's quite a lot of negotiation and discussion that needs to take place in the council. How would you think of consolidating that sort of a sensible, common sense approach that you seem to have put there, and then having more of a group or a community mindedness drawn into the process?
If somebody came before the council, they have to state their case. But my feeling was I want to hear from all the abutters, because they're the ones that will make me decide. If the case comes before us and there's no abutters against it, well, it's kind of hard to go against them. But I can't see something coming before the council and people not objecting to these monster houses. I don't think it'd ever happen.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about budget and finance. The 2007 Blue Ribbon Commission and the municipal budget recommended that Newton strengthen its commercial tax base, and they're noting that the commercial growth had been eclipsed by residential developments. But since those findings were published, Newton's commercial tax base has further declined. Do you agree with the Blue Ribbon Commission that Newton needs a stronger commercial tax base? And if so, what policies would you put in mind to
Newton
support?
needs to do nothing. They need to do something, because we do not help commercial at all. They never did in this city. And I know my brother-in-law used to be in the business, and he used to say, they're putting me out of business with taxes. Why don't they, like Wells Avenue, why don't they build it up there, like in town, where you get the tax dollar? I know they'll create some cars and stuff, but we don't have much space left where you could do something like that. But up in Wells Avenue, you could put businesses up there, high-story buildings. Other than that, I don't know.
Are you suggesting that it's maybe too difficult a problem to solve?
No.
Just push it onto future generations?
No. Act now. Act now. Don't stop like typical for the city council. Well, no, let's push it over till next year. We'll hold it to next year, or hold it. And I was off the council for 6 years, and they were calling me up, what should we do with this item? For crying out loud, I left the board 6 years ago, just throw it away, get rid of it. That's what they do up there. They just hang on to it, until it dies or the people lose interest. Or if you do come up, like I'm the last one tonight, you sit here, and you say, my God, are they going to hear me? They do it on purpose. They hold you here till it's like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and say, oh, Mr. Jones? Oh, Mr. Jones left. Oh, okay.
Well, that's pretty serious. I mean, what can you do as a councillor to bring about some changes to that process? If
you can argue about it on the council, and I have argued quite a bit up there. And when I left the board, they give you something when you leave the board, and they gave me a street sign, and it said Ciccone's Way.
Okay. Have you still got the street sign? Have you still got it?
My grandson has it on his wall.
There you go. Beautiful. It's a great gift. Let's talk about the environment. Do you support development that reduces the pardon me, do you support development that reduces the amount of green space in Newton? Specifically, do you support building the new Cal Senior and Community Centre in a city park?
No, I do not. At one point, when it first came out, I did say I supported the alderman, but after I learned a lot about it, I changed my mind fast. And that's politics. What was the other one?
Just green space in general.
Okay.
More green space or
yeah,
preserving
I'd
green
like
space?
to preserve all the green space we have.
Okay, great. What about energy efficient green buildings? Do you think the council should be more active on in insisting that buildings in Newton, not only public buildings but private buildings, meet a good
I
standard?
think they should. These builders come to us come to the council, and they want to build these projects for something. The council can put stipulations in there. You know, okay, you can have three floors. You want 4 floors. Well, now you have to do this. You know, this is what we want. Otherwise, we're not going to give it to you. And it's basically forcing them to do it.
Right. Yeah, and that's clearly a role that the council can fulfil.
Yes.
Let's talk about affordable housing, and you've probably got some history in this as well, because historically housing developments with 50% or more affordable units were built in Newton in partnership with non-profit entities, like the Hamlet, Weeks House and Warren House. However, despite the availability of CPA funds, no such developments have been built in recent years, with all large projects being mostly market rates or market rate units. Do you support working with non-profits to bring housing that is at least 50% affordable?
Absolutely.
Would you maybe change the 50% affordable?
What's 50%? What's the number?
Well, it's half of 100, but I know that's not
I
very
know
helpful.
it's half 100, but if we're going to help these citizens and these people that need it, we can't say it like, I think, Newtonville, Austin Street. They say, well, that's affordable. I said, what's affordable? 17 or 1,800. I said, who can pay that if you're raising a family and trying with everything else that goes along with it? And I'm talking like it's coming out of my pocket with 80 years experience.
So what would you, going back to the previous question and the previous answer, is there something that the council could do to be more active about supporting or facilitating affordable housing?
Twist arms. People want something, they come to the council for something. You want something, you give us something.
Okay. Let's talk about infrastructure and maintenance. Do you think Newton Council is doing an adequate job maintaining sidewalks, streets, buildings and parks? And if not, what would you do differently?
You want a real answer? No.
Okay.
We've had in the city, a few years back, a couple of administrations back, we had a gentleman on the Public Works Department. Before somebody could come in and dig a hole in our street, they had to have a permit. And before they could leave, that inspector came and made sure that hole was filled right. Now they pull up with a dump truck, throw some coal patch in the hole, fine for 10 minutes. Next thing you know, you boom, 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 boom. And there's not many streets in Newton that you can drive down without bouncing around. And one thing that really gets my gall, they just did Adams Street over. Beautiful paving job. And 2 weeks ago, I'm going down the street here, they're digging it up. I mean, I asked the guy, and he said, well, we have to turn the services off because they were tearing the house down, I guess. I said, well, isn't that on the planning? You know, what's going on? I mean, we just did the street, now you're digging it up, and you could have done it before we did the street. I mean, there's no planning, there's no rhyme or reason.
It certainly does sound like there's a problem with planning or a lack of planning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How would you bring those kinds of questions to the council and seek to have them addressed? I think it's something that everybody recognises as a challenge.
I would file for an ordinance to mandate the city have an inspector to go out and inspect these projects. When they open the street up, they fill it up, and they do it the right way. and 90% of them are not doing it. And we're as bad as the others. The city's just as bad. But people's cars are getting damaged.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was a police officer, I used to tell people, the city's responsible, sue the mayor. Well, I did that for a couple of months, and I got called in one day. I was given a direct order, don't ever say that again.
So,
I mean, I only got involved when they blew a tire or did something.
right.
And they call the police. We go up, and a lot of times I'd help them change the tire and stuff. And during the conversation, I would tell them, sue the mayor. You know, it's all, get your money back. And my experience after being on the Board of Aldermen, the city calls them nuisance complaints. They run them out as long as they can, then they pay them. And I used to argue about that in Finance Committee. That is so wrong. But they know they're wrong. They won't pay to the last second.
Okay, so we've got some work to do in the logistics and the day-to-day operations of the council.
Yeah.
It would seem to me. Let's talk about quality of life, and there's a question of funding for actual improvements to public transport accessibility and service. So this is a public transport question, and you know that improvement seems to be a long way away, if ever. So do you think it's responsible for Newton's elected and appointed officials to approve high-density transit-orientated development projects in the absence of any actual improvements in public transit accessibility and service?
Here we go. Newton should do all they could. A few years back, we had the Nexus. I don't know if anybody remembers that. We had our own bus circle, 2 circles around the city. Nobody rode it.
Huh.
Every time you saw the bus, it was empty. Only one time I saw somebody on it, and it was Brooke Lipset, the president of the Board of Aldermen. She was trying to get people to get on the bus. I mean, people are not going to give up their cars. They just won't do it.
So what are we going to... So does that mean that there's a problem with the very premise of this question? That public transport just won't work?
The thing is, the MBTA, when I was on the board, we got notice that they were cutting routes. No, make them put them back. I mean, it's all politics. If you don't harass them, they're not going to do anything. I had an incident in Newtonville Square, the church there in Newtonville Square. They had no parking, and it was a medical company, nurses in and out constantly. So they were giving their employees quarters to feed the meters, and they were still getting tickets. I had 3 or 4 meetings with the Turnpike and with the people renting the church. The people renting the church were going to pay the Turnpike to put a parking lot on that side street. I can't, the Trowbridge Street, I think, I'm not sure. And the Turnpike was going to do it, but then the the people got fed up with the bureaucracy in the city of Newton. They moved. I mean, that could have been another parking lot over there, but no, the city of Newton again, so hard ass in plain English, they pulled out.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's turn to the quality of life question for seniors. And what would you do to improve the quality of life for Newton seniors?
Well, I think I'm a senior, 80 years old, and I'm doing pretty good. And I think most of us are. I think the ones that need help should get it. And I know when I was in the police department, we got a lot of calls to help the senior citizens, so did in the fire department. Light bulbs, floods, or whatever. Who do you call? You call the police or the fire. I can remember going to one house in Cabot Street. The line coming in the house broke. I was knee-high in water, shutting the water off. That's just stuff you did, you know. And there were seniors. They were my age then. I was a kid, but that's just stuff you do. I mean, we're a service-oriented city, and our police and fire are there. Even though they've cut the police down 100 bodies, they're still there, and they're there to help and assist, because that's what when you're going through the academy and training, that's what you do.
Well, it's a good point if you think about the very low crime rate in Newton, that it may be a better role for police to fulfil right? That this sort of public service support mechanism, I mean,
Public-
maybe there's a way of thinking through that.
Public service is public service, and they don't get that many calls for it. So it's hard to say. Myself, I'm 80, I'm doing fine, and I have my bride.
Let's ask a question about governance, and this is about the Planning Board's special permit authority. So zoning changes proposed by the Fuller administration would give the unelected Planning and Development Board the power to approve buildings of 20 or fewer housing units. Do you support taking authority over such projects away from the City Council and giving it to an unelected body?
Absolutely not, and I'd fire the planning board.
Really? We haven't had many rounds of applause this afternoon, so can you elaborate on that?
I think a lot of stuff they do is job security. A week ago, the city council voted to give up their control of the parking meters, and they gave it to the planning board. Not only when they did that, they upped the fee, I think, to almost $4 an hour to park, and the planning board can raise the fees now without asking any permission. They just go up and do it. That's their responsibility. They just gave themselves a 59% raise, and they're trying to get rid of some of the work. If you can't handle the job, get out. There's somebody else there that wants it.
This is a Ward 1, this is a specific Ward 1 question. The Newton Corner neighbourhood was cut in half maybe a couple of generations ago by the turnpike. Some local residents would say it's never recovered. So what, if anything, would you propose to do about healing this rupture in the Ward 1 community?
Well, that's a big one. That circle of death is something
That's the
else. And I was hoping my opponent would have been here tonight, because that's one question I was going to ask her. She said she had met with the Newton Corner Association over that, and I wanted to know what the results were. When I was on the board, I was after the turnpike then. To build an exit before you get to Newton Corner, so you could get off behind the Pancake House. And I haunted them so much, they were considering it. I kept inviting them in. They would come in, they would come in, they would come in. And my son, when he got elected to the board, he was at a meeting, he says, they actually talked about you. I mean, that's what it is, folks. I mean, when you want something, you don't, if they say you can't do it, that's baloney. I mean, why can't we do it? Why can't we? It's politics. You go after it. I mean, Newton Corner should be fixed. I think the city is going to give us $40 million to do Washington Street, not a dime for that circle of death. That is a major, major problem. That's where I worked as a police officer. And at 6 o'clock at night, let people cross from the hotel to Center Street. They had to get across Center Avenue. And I would walk out there with my hand out. They wouldn't stop. They wouldn't stop. One day I was going out there, and the guy went around me. There was a state trooper behind him. He said, I'll get him. So 20 minutes later, they both come back, and the trooper said, trooper said, what do you want to do? I said, I can't book him. He said, I'll book him, because he saw it. But tough enough for a cop to cross the street in uniform with a cruiser parked there, it's definitely a circle of death.
Definitely is.
Never mind a senior citizen who can't move that fast trying to get across because the lights are not long enough. And Newton now puts a cruiser on the bridge, so it blocks a lane to give the people coming off the turnpike a shot at getting into Newton, because that line on the turnpike is backed up for miles.
And we know that's probably going to get worse. So this comes to, what would you propose about that community in Ward 1 where you are proposing to be a councillor? I mean, what could you take to the council to say, let's make this more of a community?
Get our typewriters going. Letters to the governor. He wants to be reelected. Our state office holders, I mean, they want to be reelected. They want to be there. They service us. If they hear from us in numbers, they're going to do something. But now they're going to big dig starting in Newton and on the turnpike next year. I've heard nothing about it except an article. I had an article in the Globe was given to me the other day. At times, the turnpike's going to be down to one lane. I mean, what about the fumes that we're going to be, never mind the traffic that's going to go through the neighborhoods, what about the fumes that everybody's going to be breathing? Not a word said. Yet, when I was on the board, on the Public Safety Committee, BC, they had the bus for the kids. They wanted to change to diesel, more economical. My God. I come in one day, there's about 40 people in there, and they're worried about breathing those fumes. I mean, so why aren't we being told this? This should be something that's blasted all over the city, but they're not. They're not saying a darn thing.
Thank you very much. Let's just give you one closing statement. One opportunity for you to
already?
one opportunity for you to, we can go on for another hour, but just one statement that you'd like to make to everybody about your candidacy.
Okay. You ready?
30 seconds.
Okay. During the summer months, I had many people come to my house and call me, almost begging me to run again, because I didn't want to. But once committed, I said, I'll do it, but you people better get out and vote, because once I'm up there, I don't back down. When I first ran for this office, it took me 5 times to get elected. They didn't want me up there. And the 5th time was a rainy day, and I'm standing at the high school with my sign at 8 o'clock came, and I said, oh, thank God, I don't care if I lose. I went home, fell asleep. The phone rings a few hours later, and my kid said, Dad, you won. So I said, oh, great. So I'm in front of the police station talking to my friends. And I forget the guy's name. He was a recreation commissioner, comes by, and he runs across the street to shake my hand. I said, what's that for? He said, congratulations. I said, you didn't like me yesterday. You like me today? Then I go up to City Hall, and I walked into the clerk's office. A woman threw me out. Eddie English come out, and because the person I was replacing had already left, so I was being sworn in immediately. Eddie English comes out. He's your boss. Stop it, stop it, stop it. I get things done. People call me. I'm around, and I'm not afraid to go after the people responsible. I mean, if you need a rubbish barrel and they won't give it to you, call me. I'll get it for you if I have to deliver it you myself. I got a call about the dump. They were tearing out the Angel School. On a Saturday, they were hauling stuff into the dump. So I don't know who called me, but said they're dumping asbestos in the dump. So I go down there, and the city worker says, oh, you can't come in here. I said, I don't think you can stop me. But anyways, I called the fire department. So the fire department comes down, and we can't find any asbestos. So the building commissioner got called. Now, he was down the Cape, and he was really mad. He had to come back from the Cape. And when he got here, he says to me, Allan, who the hell do you think you are? I said, are we dumping asbestos or aren't we? He said, well, no, we wouldn't do that. I said, but why are we working on Saturday? No answer. I mean, I was born at night, but not last night.
And on that note, we'll say thank you very much, Allan Ciccone.
I'd appreciate your vote.